The UAE Derby is going to have a very good Thursday evening. Stats Racelands users, race fans, bettors, welcome to the Florida Derby Day Stats Racelands webinar. 48 hours out from the big day at Gulfstream. And, of course, we also can look forward Saturday to Dubai World Cup. The UAE Derby going to have major implications for the first Saturday in May. A lot to go over, a lot of good racing at Gulfstream. There's also, of course, the forced distribution of the Rainbow Six that is going to start in race 9 and end in the Florida Derby. So all kinds of interest. We've got a terrific lineup and the usual use of the tools at Stats Racelands to help you sniff out winners that might not be so obvious. And it is a pretty daunting sequence at Gulfstream on Saturday. First of all, let's welcome Laffit Pincay the third, LP3.
Steve, hello everyone. Great to be on the Stats Racelands webinar with you. Yeah, if you can't get excited for this weekend of racing, you need to find another sport to follow. And it's an exciting time of year in sports. Opening day of the Major League Baseball season, Final Four this weekend. And this final push of major preps leading up to the Derby. And if recent history has shown us anything, we may very well be looking at the Kentucky Derby winner this weekend. What is it? 3 out of the last 5 or 5 out of the last 12 Florida Derby winners have gone on to win the Kentucky Derby. It's incredible. Not to mention a terrific undercard you touched on, Steve. Super Saturday on tap. Can't wait.
Let me say hello as well. Ellis Starr with us, Uber Capper on Twitter, of course. Ellis, good evening.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to a very interesting Saturday afternoon.
Let's take a quick moment before we get started in earnest and mention $99 quarterly unlimited usage promotion, SRLQ 99S. April 30th, the cutoff for that. Basically, you can get yourself signed on straight through the Triple Crown. While you're at it, make another note. April 12th, we'll be together. I'll be in Hot Springs, and we'll bring you the Arkansas Derby and Lexington webinar. Some new features. Ellis, you run these down because you tinker with this day and night and are just typically involved in some of the final maneuvers that the team comes up with some of the features. Run them down.
Well, tinker's the right word. Let me just add one thing about that great promo you mentioned with the code SRLQ99S through April 30th. That is for new and previous subscribers who do not have an active subscription. We have a lot of promos occasionally for people that do. We've had some running, but this one is for new and previous subscribers who did not have an active subscription. So just to go over some things for those that do look at Stats Racelands, and even if you don't have a subscription, on the page about the program, there's always mentions of the new additions in the program itself. You can always check on those by clicking on the About Us link, which you can see on my screen here. And then About Us, it's got the most recent ones, and they pop up as well for the first 2 or 3 times each week when new things are added. Some of the new things we've added, for those that like making trainer, jockey, sire, and dam statistics, we've got an additional set of criteria under surface. We now have everything related to all weather. So we had all weather before, but now we also have all weather to dirt, dirt to all weather, and all weather to turf, and turf to all weather. So for those who would like to handicap those factors, those are available as well. Most of the other recent changes since our last webinar involved angles, and we've added a few criteria in angles. The first are the same things that I just discussed with everybody. Under the profile for the horse and the surface, you can now select the same thing here, including horses going all weather to dirt, dirt to all weather turf, and turf to all weather. Also under the statistics for trainer, jockey, sire, and dam, you've got those as well. We also added here for criteria, as you can make your own angles, of course, under trainer, we have this trainer second time after a trainer switch. That's new. So horse's second start after changing trainers. And one of the last ones is we added under blinkers and medication. We had a lot of requests from this from users, and we always love requests. We try and get some of those in every few weeks. And we had one here under criteria under the medication equipment. We also have a horse now with second time wearing blinkers. And this is a little unique because this is the second time in a horse's career it's wearing blinkers. It might be the second time in a row, it might not, but it's the second time wearing blinkers. And one more for all of the issues, all of the things involving comparing today's distance to previous distances, we have a new category here called max distance. So if you're making anything involving distance, let's just say you want to go from we're handicap a mile and an eighth, but or actually the Pan American, for example, it's a mile and a half. So if you want to go on the grass for a mile, on the dirt or turf, in this case, you can add the surface of turf, and you do the distance of greater than a mile and an eighth, and you have this new, which is called max distance, which is everything basically up to 4 miles. So this is if you're doing marathons and stuff like that, you can do those distances. Those are the new additions in Stats Racelands in the last few weeks, Steve.
All really good. And in fact, that second blinker angle, you may look forward to the Derby start of Noble Indy, because you heard Todd Fletcher talk about the blinkers that he put on Noble Indy, and now he's going to maybe trim them a little bit and give a little bit more peripheral vision for Noble Indy, because they basically came out of the Louisiana Derby win and felt that Noble Indy had too much of a blinker on, and he really didn't see Lone Sailor pass him. So there's the adjustment, and this happens a lot with blinkers. A full cup, a half cup, cheaters. You can also punch a hole or cut a little strip in the blinkers so that the horse can see motion and can see a horse, coming and not, have to react when the horse has already put their head in front. So second time blinkers, a very nice nuance to the angles. Let's give a nuanced treatment to Ellis. Your thoughts going into the feature, the Grade 1 Florida Derby on Saturday.
Well, this is our Equibase Waste of the Week, of course. And, I did something I like to do when I'm doing groups and stuff at various tracks, but I wanted to really go into detail of the why nots instead of the whys. So I'm going to go on a bit. I might take a break and turn it over to Laffit or you, but this race was interesting because I looked at a lot of why nots here. And so the why nots is the why a horse can't run well. Of course, you have the two long shots in Millionaire Runner and in Tip Sheet, who are both overmatched. They haven't run well recently at all. As a last starter win, the horse was running for a claiming tag at one point, as was Millionaire Runner. So those are why nots. And then some of the why nots that people might not think are why nots. And Laffit and I, of course, Laffit has already sent his selections. I'll go over in a minute. So I'm going to start with Audible. Audible for me is a why not, which means not why he can't win, it's why he's not a contender. And I know that he's run well off the layoffs here this September to November, which was 46 days, 49 days, 59 days, and then 56 today. But the fact is this with the horse, he did run very well. There's no question I liked him in the Holy Bull, but the 99 to 97 Equibase speed figure, first of all, 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds always historically should jump up 10, 20% and way above 100 when you're running in February of your 3-year-old year if you're going to be a Derby prep or a Derby contender. So he's got 2 knocks for me. The fact that was a 97, he's got to go way up here because the horses are already running in the 108 to 111 range. Maybe he'll do it. Since he's 9 to 5 particularly, that makes me happy because I'll go the other way. Then you have the issue of the 1-2 finishers in the Fountain of Youth. So Promises Fulfilled and Strike Tower. Now, the first thing you could do when you're looking at the chart, and other people use pace, is look at the race itself. And I got this zoomed in a little bit, so let me see if I can fix that and make sure that there it is, the regular chart. So one thing I noticed, and we all know if we watched the race, was this race was run very strangely. 23 and 8/10 And then the second fraction was 24 and almost 6/10, and then 24, and then 25 before the final 16. That is not, in my opinion, and just my opinion, of course, graded stakes Derby caliber time. He got on a lone lead, as everybody knows from watching the race. He ran around the track. Strike Power, who had won his first two races wire to wire, ran second around the track, and that is, in my opinion, in all the years I've been handicapping, that just defines a need to lead type. A horse that goes wire to wire when he wins and plays followed leader when he loses is a need to lead type. And this was pretty much a carousel race. Good Magic and Machismo did close a little bit. So I don't like the race. I mean, I don't think when you start getting into tougher competition, that 25 third quarter ain't going to cut it. So I tossed Promises Fulfilled. I tossed Strike Power because he's need to lead type, and I don't see anything changing as far as him getting the lead over Promises Fulfilled. But if they do happen to get into a battle, Steve and Laffit, I think maybe then they kill each other off. So that's even better. The last one was Catholic Boy, who was 7-2. Also, nice prep. He improved. He ran a 106 back here when he ran fourth in the juvenile, and then 100 winning the Remsen. Then he did improve, well, like you should, 5 points up in his 3-year-old debut. But I'll tell you what I don't like about him, which is, again, looking at a chart, this race was another, I don't want to use the word phony, but it just bothers me, and I'd love to hear your opinions of these races. But when you go 24 and then you speed up, and then all of a sudden you run 25 in the third quarter increment, it's just no good. And Catholic Boy actually led right here. If everybody watches the replay, he led between calls right before the 8th hole, and then he couldn't put Flame Away again. Now, he was short because he'd been off, Catholic Boy, from December to February. But then when I go and look at Flame Away, which you can always do, which is the great thing about Racelands, being able to drill down and see another horse's history, Flame Away came back, and he regressed from a 106 to a 96 figure in the Tampa Bay Derby, and he got beat by Quip, who I'm not going to knock, but it was a slow race. And that was also another race that was kind of phony because they went 31 seconds in the last 3/16. So they're all out, which left me with some nice opportunities here for a price. And again, you'll see this in our, we put up our picks in the Racelands forum, and you'll see it also on the Equibase Race of the Week. But my picks are going to be Hofburg, Storm Runner, and Mississippi. And at this point, I kind of want to hear what you think, both of you, about the pace of those races. Do you think I'm off base that those 25-second third quarters are significant, that they slowed up so bad? Were those phony races, or am I missing something? I'd love to hear both your opinions on that before I go back into the picks.
I was with, and Ellis, you and I haven't communicated in depth about these races. I was with everything you said about Audible, and I'll get to that deeper in a moment, and with the 1-2 finishers in the Fountain of Youth with Promises Fulfilled and Strike Power. We differ with Catholic Boy, but after the draw, I started looking at the race, and very quickly I was making this way too complicated. You know, will Alvarado and Promises Fulfilled sell out for the lead? At what expense? Will Saez allow Promises Fulfilled to get away from him again on Strike Power as he did in the Fountain of Youth? How aggressive will Le Peru be on Mississippi from the outside? Here's what I know. The pace is going to be faster. Who's going to be where exactly, I'm not sure, but the pace will be fast. And once you accept that, for me, Ellis, Steve, it became pretty clear, Catholic Boy. I know Catholic Boy will benefit from a lively pace. I believe he moves forward off a solid foundation-building effort in the Sam Davis. And while, you know, the mile and an eighth could be a hindrance for some, if not most, Catholic Boy has already proven having won the Remsen. Plus, Jonathan Thomas really has to crank him up. I'm not saying empty the tank, but there's not much room for error here from a point standpoint. So I did wind up with Catholic Boy on top, but I ignored Promises Fulfilled. I ignored Strike Power. I am expecting a big effort from Storm Runner. I think it was on your show, Steve, that Dale Roman said his ride from Rosario in the Fountain Youth was the worst he had ever seen. Premature move inside, stopped cold, heading up the backstretch. Tyler Gaffalione takes over. He's training up a Storm. So I have Catholic Boy over Storm Runner. And quickly, just to get back to Audible, guys, and why this is a play against for me, I loved his Holy Bull. I love his stride, how he kind of effortlessly just flicks it out there and just makes it look really easy. I'm a fan, but I'm a little bit concerned about his recent training. I think it's safe to say he doesn't look like always dreaming coming into this race last year, having to be asked to keep up with his workmate. Pletcher doesn't seem concerned, but still also concerned about his post. The stats bear out. The 8 and out going a mile and an eighth at Gulfstream, problematic. Mississippi could cut over right in front of him. I'm concerned about the pedigree going farther by Into Mischief. I do think he runs third on class alone, and then Audible will be in a points jackpot. Such an interesting Florida Derby on paper.
Let me, Steve, I want to hear your opinion, but I do want to go back because I want to get this while it's hot. Laffit made a comment about the pace. It's funny because you said something similar to what I said, that Alvarado's probably going to ride the same race. I think I heard that. And Strike Power is inside of him. The projection here from the pace projection is that Strike Power is going to have the edge. And again, this is pretty fast. The class rating, the expected speed rating for the final is 111 here. The pace projection is 110 and 108. I mean, that's almost on par, and you wouldn't expect that. So that does mean, I think, Laffit, even though there's not a lot of pace horses, that I think you're right. So either way, Promises Fulfilled goes slow, and this time he can't get away with a 25 third quarter, or Strike Power goes with him and they take each other out. So I'm with you on that. I want to go back now and talk about my picks a little bit quickly. Steve, did you want to say something about those 25 third quarters? Do they concern you at all before I go back and talk about Hofburg?
Well, I mean, in regards to the Tampa races, I never worry much about what goes on there, and I would expect the Catholic Boy is that much more ready. I don't. Young horses in the winter trying distances in many cases for the first time, I don't indict them all that much. And the 9 furlong distance is always basically a difference maker. And so you gotta look at certain horses that are now going to be running a distance to ground for the second time. You got to expect that you've got trainers here that are gearing up and know that this is the important and ultimate start if they're going to get to Derby. So I tend to not worry as much as I used to about closing quarters. It just, there's so much of a difference between those early preps, the January, February preps, and then when we get to this juncture. So it doesn't, and anything that happens at Tampa, I basically shrug. I thought, certainly the race the Catholic Boy ran, coming out of the 2-year-old season and knowing that Jonathan Thomas had been a little ginger, I am sensing everything you see from Catholic Boy leading into this, that he's not going to leave anything up at the Bridlewood Farm at the training center. So
what about the Fountain of Youth?
Case, well, the Fountain of Youth, of course, has been a funny monkey when it comes to the road from the Holy Bull to the Florida Derby. I absolutely am not that interested in the top finishers coming out of the Fountain of Youth. I agree completely with Laffit about Storm Runner.
Just about ready.
Yeah, I mean, just expect that he gets a better ride. Although Gaffleone is not a guy that Romans, pull up the Romans Gaffleone numbers. It's not like they've got some history of success even this season. So I thought that was interesting that he ends up with a jock that he hasn't won with at all down there. But trust that he runs a better race. I agree about Mississippi and Hofburg. They're very viable alternatives with Storm Runner to the obvious. I'll probably end up picking Catholic Boy because he figures to get really a perfect trip in here the way this thing is lining up.
Well, I appreciate that. So I want to go back real quick and watch this video of Hofburg, and I want to show everybody what I saw and why I'm picking him, because this is a horse that had made his debut at Saratoga at 7 furlongs in September, and off 6 months off is going a route of ground, and here he is on the outside, 5 wide and then 4 wide. and he's actually going to continue wide the whole way. And Bill Mott had him so fit off 6 months. I know it was a maiden race, but to go, and I didn't look at the track, so I don't know how many feet he ran, but to go that wide and then to make the lead and to lead, and then it's a short stretch here, but to make the lead and then to get a little green. And he's going to start to idle, and of course, PAO caught it. And then when, I forget the horse, when the other horse comes to him, the runner-up in this case, which is Just Whistle, comes to him, Hoffberg, here he starts to make a move. When Just Whistle comes to him, here's on the outside, he is going to engage again. This is a pretty smart horse, and, Mott going maiden to, I'll show the stats in a minute, Mott going maiden to stakes is something. So, but I want to watch this and just say, here's a horse that looks like he's going by. He's under his own power. It's a Gulfstream. It's a mile and an eighth. And he's going to make the lead fairly easily. He's not really been asked that much by Ortiz at this stage. And then all of a sudden, you'll see, it makes it look like he's going to get caught. In reality, what he's doing is because he's green, it's his first route and second start, is he's just going to say, I think my job's done, in my opinion. And this horse is going to come to him, and then Ortiz just gives him a little shake-up, and he digs in pretty nicely. He's got to be tighter, second off the layoff. Now, there's always questions with horses. This is where Racelands comes in, so I'm taking a minute to talk about some questions. People are saying to themselves in their heads, or I said to myself, 3 questions. You got Mott going maiden to stake. You've got, of course, the sire, not too much to add, and you got the dam. So real quick, and I may already have this one queued up. If not, it's not a big deal. It's so easy to do here. You just go and you go the last couple of years. And I think in this case, I had everything turned off. I just wanted to see what Mott does when his horse was a maiden winner last out, and today's race is a stakes race. And so you turn everything else to all starters, last couple of years, maiden. I think I'm just going to do all stakes. If you do graded stakes, you're going to get a smaller sample size. I didn't want a real small sample size here. And I think, if I remember correctly, I'll do it for 2 years. I can't remember originally if I did it for more or not. And, of course, as everybody knows, if you don't know, these statistics run on thousands of races, and it usually takes a minute. There you go. 3 for 13, maiden winner in the stake. And when you sort here, you'll see who some of these are. Good Samaritan last year when he won the summer stakes at Woodbine as a 2-year-old late in the summer, Lockdown, and Yoshida. Then what's really interesting here is, and I already knew this, of course, because I was looking at Hoffberg when he ran his maiden race, but then I look at the dam, and you can preset this or the default stat on the dam. You can see lifetime dirt routes. She's had 4 horses, 10 starts, 4 wins. Well, who were they? Well, one of them is going to jump off the page. It's Emollient, who won $1 million and change. You can click on and get her lifetime PPs right here, $1.3 million. And Emollient won. Mott had Emollient, and Mott moved her from a maiden race into the Demoiselle in her 2-year-old rear, and she ran second. So she was running on dirt at the time. Then she won a Gulfstream, and then she came back, and she won the Aspen by 9 lengths on dirt before she spent most of her, that was on all-weather, I'm sorry, before she spent most of her career on turf and all-weather. But she was proven here on the dirt. So you've got a dam that can produce a great stakes winner as a 2 and 3-year-old. And of course, you've got a horse by Tappet. You've got Bill Mott. There's nothing not to like here. And Storm Runner, and I hadn't heard, by the way, that you said that Roman said he never saw a ride like this before. And again, this is a video ride. I'm not much of a trip guy, but I do want to show this because it's really telling. Of course, that race that Hoffberg in Mississippi ran on February 4th was fantastic, where they drew off and there's 9 lengths next horse. You and I talked about this on our last webinar. And in this particular case, basically he fought the jockey the entire first half of the race. And he's the 5, I think the Team Valor colors. He starts out in 3rd or 4th, so he's right here on the rail. And I'm not sure, some jockeys just don't get along with horses. And Hoffberg just seemed to have fought him. You could see Rosario just trying to wiggle out. He wants to go. And when he finally lets him go, of course, what's going to happen is Promises Fulfilled Alvarado's going to let him just off the rail and then slam the door. And he's not going to check hard, but he's going to check twice. And when Rosario finally, and he's going to go again, and he's not going to go inside, whatever happened, the horse got upset, or Alvaro just closed it again. And when Rosario finally asked him to run a little bit, he said, I'm done. I wanted to run. You wouldn't let me. Something happened. And, he showed his stubbornness, and he was done. Before that, he ran so well. At this point, basically, the horse is sending all the signals that he finished. So when you look at his last race before that at Gulfstream Mile, if this was his last race, he wouldn't certainly be 20-1 as he is here. I think he's going to rebound. And the other one's Mississippi. And again, I just got 3 shots here because that's what I'm doing. Well-regarded horse who cost a lot of money, $700,000. He lost an Oval Indy. That's not a disgrace now. And then he came back and he was 9 clear here with a 111. He's been off since then for Cassie. And I think he's got a shot. He's by Pioneer the Nile, so you don't have to worry about him getting the distance of being a 3-year-old stakes horse. So I'm going for 3 picks here. Hoffberg, Stormrunner, Mississippi, and right now they're all double digits. I'm betting all 3 to win. I'm not even going to mess with exotics, and that's what I see in the Florida Derby.
Let's turn to the Honey Fox, and a lot of good turf racing, of course, on a day like this. There's the 3-year-old races earlier on the card, and you also can look forward to the return of Best Performance, second behind Rushing Fall. In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. Christophe Clement sends her out early. Going to talk about the Honey Fox, and Laffit, why don't you jump in? And a couple of horses kind of stood out a little bit than others in here.
Yeah, Steve, let's start with Stormy Victoria. I was at Gulfstream for the Pegasus, and the race right before was South Beach, and got to see Stormy Victoria do her thing firsthand. She was awesome. First off, she's a closer, so it doesn't make that much of a difference, but yeah, she got left at the start of the race, and she got bumped around a little bit. And going into the far turn, she's dead last and winds up wide, and still, as you see in the replay here, is going to be able to pick off her highly regarded stablemate in Celestine. So you watch her finish. It's last to first for Stormy Victoria. And if the Honey Fox unfolds the way it looks on paper, with Team of Teams, with Conquest Hard Candy setting the tempo, this should set the table for Stormy Victoria to come charging late again. Watch how wide she is going into the far turn here and how much ground she's losing. As we mentioned, she got bumped at the start of the race, spotting the field a couple of lengths, and still able to gather momentum and good enough to lengthen that stride and run down Celestine. I thought this was awfully impressive. And again, I see the race shape, the race flow in her favor, and I'm expecting to see a repeat of the South Beach from Stormy Victoria. I also use guys number 10 on Leave. She is a true miler, the only 4-time winner in the field at the mile distance, and you have to appreciate her consistency. 7 for 12 over the last 2 years, in the money in 12 of 14 lifetime. And the only reason for pause, as far as I'm concerned, for On Leave is that this is her first race in 3.5 months, and it usually, looking at her past performances, takes her a race off the bench before she finds her best stuff. So Stormy Victoria over On Leave for me in the Honey Fox.
I can't disagree. We're on the same top horse, Laffit and I. Stormy Victoria, you just saw the video of that. Beautiful. It was actually a career best Equibase speed figure 116. She had a 115 back here in the powder break. She's now a 6-year-old, but it's kind of unusual. But she ran her best race at 6. I think Gaffley Leon can ride her just as well. And if you didn't notice, by the way, and I hadn't noticed till you mentioned Laffit, Rosario never had to go to the whip. She made that move all on her own. I don't think you can call it a hand ride to win by 3/4, but I think it was a hand ride myself. And so she's very impressive. I'm hoping that Florida. Pardon?
Much the best.
That's the best. That's correct. Much the best. Is definitely
in the South Beach, much the best. Right.
Yeah, and knockback start. Before that, she is taken back, and she had some trouble here. That's what trouble comment means. And she's beaten the neck and a neck in the My Charmer to On Leave, and she does have a slightly better post. On Leave will drop back too, but you've got to like the 3 post over the 10 post here as far as ground saving goes. And the 4-1, if it holds up, might prove to be a gift. On leave, you mentioned I don't need to talk her up. She'd be my second contender. I'm going 5 deep in this race on pick 3s and pick 4s. A couple interesting horses at double digits that I can't leave out. One is Res Ipsa, because, again, she's run her best race ever in her most recent start at it was Keeneland in October, and she was scratched out of the off-turf race here. I had the scratches. You could see it was because it was sloppy and off-turf, so that makes sense. So she's been rested since then. But she did fire here from July to September, and the 2 wins both came with Leparoux aboard, who apparently gets along with her really nice, and Julian is riding her today. She's going to come back. She's got a really nice workout. It says that she may not need the race 59-8 at Palm Meadows on the grass. A nice series here for Ian Wilkes. I have to use her. She should be 12-1 in my opinion. Lull, the 5-2 favorite, I've got to use reluctantly in exotics. I wouldn't care if she wins or doesn't. I hope she doesn't. She did beat 3-year-olds only in the autumn miss at a mile, and then she ran badly. That was a grade 1, of course, the matriarch, and now she's back to grade 3 company. And then the other long shot of note is a really interesting horse on the rail. And certainly if one of my 2 10-1 shots ran good, I wouldn't complain. Glory to Kitten, who was, of course, a Kitten's Joy. I have a Newfoundland mare. She bred to run all day, and she was owned by Ken Ramsey. As usual, Ramsey drops his horses. She got taken. Then she got claimed again. Then she was off, and she came back. She won the first allowance condition after a couple of losses, but she was close in a few. Came back, and she just really improved second off the layoff and first off the claim for Georgia Brew last time out. And even though Irad gets off for Alvarado, the fact that this filly is 5 for 5 on the Gulfstream grass intrigues me. So my top pick, Summer Victoria, and I'm going to kind of weave around with some exotics. King with Summer Victoria and the 2 long shots, Res Ipsa and Gloria to Kitten. And, of course, I'm going to use in the trifectas as exactas as well with the 2 long shots, Lull and On Leave. And I'm going to use all 5 on the pick 3s and pick 4s I play.
And no argument with any of it, including Glory to Kitten and Georgie Abreu, known as TP, and George, of course, exercise rider and longtime Chad Brown assistant, and Michael Dubb has gotten him some horses, and the Dubb program awfully successful. If she runs back to that starter stake, that Mary Todd Lincoln from President's Day weekend, President's Day. She can have a say in this. On leave, I'll end up picking On Leave because I always do. Let's go to the Gulfstream Oaks, and the Oaks is really much like last week where at Fairgrounds where we saw Tom Amos upset. The absence of any big filly in most regions of the country has left these kind of wide open. And even though there's a couple of horses, I think, Ellis, and you can start it, there's a couple of horses that figure to be, to take the money. I didn't get any filly here that grabbed me by the lapels and screamed, bet me. I'm a little concerned about this as part of the Rainbow Six, because I was hoping to be able to be fairly narrow in here. And the more I looked, the more confused I got.
Yeah, well, the morning line favorite's 4-1. So I think you're right there with everybody else, Steve. This is going to be a heck of a race. The first thing you notice is all the red, which is the hot pace alert, which comes up and tells you basically it's going to be a hot time in the old town here. By short on running style, you see 6 horses that look like early runners and then one that's early presser, and 4 of them line up. So looking at them, at least you know that that's going to happen. Now, the 2 that are the most likely to go, no question in my mind, are the 13 and the 1. And so I looked at the pace profile, pace projector, and then I would look at the races, and you've got 8:31 stretching out from 2 sprints, wire to wire, and then almost wire to wire here. And then you've got the 13, and you just know from the 13 post, a horse like this has to go. Rios has no choice but to send it, and these were all one-turn races or 2 turns. So it's a question then of who is going to get sucked into the hot pace. There's a possibility that Take Charge Paula could get sucked up, but I said no because she was 4th last time out and she's learning to relax very nicely. There's a very good chance that Daisy is going to get sucked up because that's the way she ran the first 3 times. She did relax here, but lo and behold, she's adding blinkers. Now, I don't know if, Service is a good trainer, but blinkers usually don't cause a horse to rate more. So I had to kind of take a hard look at that. You've got the finishers, the 1-2 finishers from the Suncoast. This CS in Charge, who is by Take Charge Indy, who I love as a sire of both Colts and fillies, but she came from off the pace, but she's also a horse that has to be close to the lead. And you could just go on and on from there. So I ended up with Cash, who I liked for our last seminar, who, like Storm Runner, got a really bad trip. Now, this wasn't a bad ride by Castellano. She just got unlucky. And let me show you what I mean by unlucky. For those that don't know, in this race, she got blocked at a critical stage while the winner was running away with it, and Castellano knew he couldn't do much at that point. And you'll be able to comment when I get done, Steve, about what Hennig might have said about the raid, because I know that they were high on her, and I thought it was great. But here she is sitting here in the green and blue, Portland here in the 7, and she's just going to have no place to go. She can't go out, she can't go in, she can't do anything. She starts to drive, and I guess Javier's hoping that she gets a spot to run, but it never happens until it's too late. And with her debut the way it was, in which she was green and still won well, and the fact that she's going 2 turns because she's by Distorted Humor out of a Giants Causeway mare, I think I said you could see she's still blocked at this stage. And I can't fault her or Javier at this point. He's not going to go wheel out around these horses. And by here, the cause is lost. Now, when she does get clear, I don't think he asks her much because he knows he's got to save her. There's no point in doing anything with her. She's going to close a little bit here. She'll end up 5th. But you can see he's not riding her much in the last 100 yards or so. So I like Cash a lot here. I think she's got a good shot to go back to what she could be. I think Take Charge Paula, who we said is already a multiple stakes winner, having won the Forward Gal, and she's got the breeding, the Take Charge Indy, to run 2 turns, is fine. She's 5 for 8. The only time she ran as a 2-year-old, she's a whole different horse than she was here in the Pocahontas, so I'm not worried about that. She might get the best trip sitting 3rd or 4th behind the Alter Moon and 831. And then Princess Warrior would be my 3rd pick. Kenny McPeak, just gets these kinds of horses ready at the right time. It's second off the layoff. Maybe he couldn't find a spot. He ran on turf. Maybe they just wanted to see how she ran on turf. But in her second career start, she ran second in the Alcibiades. So I expect a big improvement in terms of stepping up to this level. So those are my picks here. Cash, Take Charge Paula, and Princess Warrior. I'm going to use the 3 horses coming out of the Suncoast, CS in Charge, Daisy, and Mirab. In second, third, exactas and trifectas, but most of my play is going to be King, Cash, and Take Charge Paula.
This is so tough. It's so tough. It's especially when you factor in the mile and the 16th dirt race at Gulfstream scenario. You wind up doing more trip handicapping in these races than you do a 20-horse Kentucky Derby field. So with that in mind, I'll go with one of the best positioned riders in the game, John Velasquez, back aboard Daisy. Velasquez has owned this race, I think tied with Jerry Bailey for most Gulfstream Park Oaks wins with 5, I think it is. And while Daisy didn't win the Suncoast at Tampa, she did show a new dimension, guys, the ability to fire from off pace. But no, I don't understand the blinkers, and I am a little bit concerned about that. But I think the fact that she was able to be effective from off the pace will be key for Daisy in the Gulfstream Oaks, sitting just off the pace and saving some ground. And again, this is kind of a theme for me moving forward. It's expecting horses to win at Gulfstream on Saturday that couldn't at Tampa. Catholic Boy in the Florida Derby, and Daisy, who I have on top in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. The other filly I'd use is Blonde Bomber, the deep closer. if every other handicapper can blindly use the, he or she hated the Tampa surface excuse, why can't I? She didn't run that bad in the Silver Bullet Day at Fairgrounds. Once she switched leads, she came running. 8:31, Coach Rock's Silver Bay. They'll ensure a fast pace to set up Blonde Bomber's late running style. And I love the back class. Third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies from dead last. And she likes the track first or second in 4 of 6 at Gulfstream Park. So for me, it's Daisy over Blonde Bomber in what might be the most daunting handicapping race on the program.
No, you've hit up most of the highlights. Kenny McPeak last week, of course, came very close to winning the Fairgrounds Oaks. Certainly, Ellis, from McPeak watching at Keeneland over the years, you said the right thing. He manages to point for these, and he does seem to maneuver. Look at this one coming off the turf effort. Princess Warrior is also going to get the kind of setup that she's going to need. There's plenty of pace here. I mean, you've got stretch out types. Bill Hickey's got that Silver Bay stretching out from the 2 sprints. She's going to prompt. That Ron Paolucci's fillies, I think he's got 7 in here. That they're gonna go. Ron has never met a pace he didn't like. You got Daisy adding the blinkers that Laffit talked about. So I'm looking for somebody that can set up shop behind the speed, and Princess Warrior on that front makes sense. Blonde Bomber, who was really a clever filly in the juvenile fillies at Del Mar, and ran a terrific race. I'm a big Stan Gold fan. This is really a tricky group, and I'm the horse that scares me that I think I just have to play a little bit or cover in multis is Take Charge Paula. I frequently get into a routine where I guess wrong when it comes to Kieran and to the ebb and flow and the form cycle of his horses. Let's press on, and Laffit, let's move on to the Pan American, the 1.5 mile standard, always a nice conclusion to the Turf Series at Gulfstream every winter.
Yeah, man, this is where I thought I could single, where I thought I could single and wound up feeling like I had to use 2. I really like Bigger Picture. It had been a while since he had won last July in the UN. So I really appreciated Maker running him at Sam Houston in the Conley and getting Bigger Picture's confidence going, remembering what it's like to win a horse race. And further, it's not like Bigger Picture's been a punching bag for Sadler's Joy. Bigger Picture finished in front of Sadler's Joy in the Bowling Green. He finished a half length behind Sadler's Joy in the Sword Dancer. So I don't think the discrepancy between them is that significant. However, I do recognize that Sadler's Joy is strictly the one to beat. And looking at Sadler's Joy, one of the reasons Bigger Picture did finish in front of him in the Bowling Green last summer is that Sadler's Joy was ridden improperly. Albatrani went back to Le Peru, and that move has really paid off and paid dividends. Expect Le Peru to drop anchor and make that patented late run with Sadler's Joy and show us why he has established himself as one of the finest long-distance turf runners in North America. And maybe it feels like a little bit of a reach. I just feel like, again, the discrepancy is too much in between Bigger Picture, Sadler's Joy. I'm going to take Bigger Picture in an upset, maybe getting that first run on a late closing Sadler's Joy and getting that confidence back with the victory at Sam Houston.
Ellis.
It's a very interesting race, and I tend to agree with Laffit. I think these 2 horses plus 1 more stand out, and I'm very unhappy to see the morning line. The Bigger Picture, I'm happy to see 6-1, by the way, but I was unhappy to see High Happy, because it's High Unhappy for me, at 3-1. This horse is just interesting from everything that's going on. So if you start looking at a horse's history, first of all, yes, an Argentinian bred, but out of a French deputy mare at a pure prize, bred to run all day and to love turf, and first time out, in a maiden race, a 14-horse field, romps by 4 at a mile on the grass. Still tough to do it in South America, North America, it doesn't matter. Second time out, Group 1, 58,000, big purse. Second, DQ'd into first. Then Group 2, 160,000, Group 1, the Jockey Club. And then one of the biggest ones, the Carlos Pellegrini in 2015, 350,000, winning in a field of 20, and much the best at a mile and a half. Comes to the U.S., and I'm not sure why, but still highly regarded and runs in a grade 2, 7-1, does nothing. Comes back, runs a little better after another 2.5 months off. Then they say, let's try dirt. I don't know what they're thinking, but okay, fine, try dirt. Fourth to Shaman Ghost, and then third, beating the neck to multiple grade 1 winner, Hard Ace and Big John B, both graded stakes winners at a mile and a half. So he's back to a mile and a half finally, which is where he was here, but on the dirt. Now, give him some time off, 7 months, send him to Fletcher. First time back, still really highly regarded, comes back in a grade 1. And, you know, for 7 months off, even for Fletcher, to get beat a neck and 3/4 to heart, not a bad race. And you can see the very consistent Equibase speed figures, 111. I think he's going to run a lot better backstretching out to the mile and a half because he's a true marathon. He's 1 for 1. He just seems to be the kind of horse going to love this mile and a half. I don't like the 3-1. Certainly, bigger picture also. You know, marathon runners and graded stakes winners win graded stakes. Bigger picture, 1 for 5 at the trip, but that last one out, at the distance, 2 for 6 at the distance, that last race, fantastic. His only time he ran at Gulfstream was in the Mac Diarmida last year, in which he ran great ahead of neck and a neck behind Wake Forest, who would run the Breeders' Cup turf. And then a couple later, the United Nations, there's a grade 1, and now the Connolly. So he's a grade 1 horse. This is a grade 2, so he fits it. I hope he'll be near that 6-1, by the way. Laffit and I think that'll be great. And then Sadler's Joy. Now, if you look at the figures, and the figures for me aren't as important at a marathon, but still good enough. And you look at Sadler's Joy here. Sadler's Joy runs about the same, 111, 112, the same, but then his last 2 are breakouts. Even when fourth, the 123 in the Breeders' Cup, and then come back with a 122. If he repeats that effort, if he doesn't regress at all, second off the layoff, if he's still in the same mood, I think the rest may be running for second. And the 2-1's not going to hold up. He'll be 7-5 or so. But if not, I think he can get beat. So in this race, I certainly agree with Laffit to some extent, bigger picture, Sadler's Joy, but my top pick is going to be High Happy, and I'm just going to make it real simple and just box the 3. I know there's not a lot of value, but try and get something out of it using all 3 in the pick 4. The course is going to end with the Florida Derby, and we are going to go for it.
Well, not a lot to add, really. And Sadler's Joy, the horse that I've really liked from early on. And Tom Albertrani has really stayed out of his way and let him mature. And the way he came in that McDiarmida, when it looked like
watch
the
it.
pace
Go ahead.
was, well,
go ahead, Steve. I just want to say we'll watch it because it's important to get a feel for how a horse is finishing and what kind of fitness level he has. So go ahead. Sorry.
Leparoux asks him, and you wouldn't give 10 cents for his chance at the top of the stretch. And he inhales this field in 3 or 4 jumps. It was unbelievable. And it may indicate that he's at another level yet as a fully mature horse. For Leparoux to make that decision and to be very unhurried, because even Tom Albertrani thought going into the turn that they were in trouble, that there was going to be too much ground to make up. So here this pace probably figures to be every bit as slow as the McDiarmida, and I'll reiterate what we talked about Scooter Dickey and One Go All Go. It's counterintuitive sometimes, but the longer pace setters get to go at slower paces, the further they can stretch fields out. High Happy probably gets first run on One Go All Go, and I would imagine Luis Saez, who's very good at this kind of ride, will stay, within striking distance to pounce on One Go All Go. So he might not get away, into the turn for home without being confronted before that. That's a big key here. I mean, when he gets confronted, and look for Leparoux to be 3-4 wide with Sadler's Joy, the way he's ridden him, over and over again. And I just, you were talking, Laffit, about finding a place to single or to try to really lean on an A horse in these sequences. I don't know exactly what has come along in this group that is going to deliver better than what Sadler's Joy beat, I thought, brilliantly in the McDermott.
He's the closest thing. He is the closest thing to a single. And it's funny you bring up about, the common knowledge would suggest that the farther a racehorse goes, the more difficult it is going to be for he or her to carry his or her speed. Gary Stevens has pointed this out 100 times, how much more difficult he thought it was trying to go wire to wire, even on a sprinter, say 6.5 furlong, 7 furlong, than it is in a 2-turn race, maybe a mile and a 1/16. I think it's one of the bigger misconceptions in racing and handicapping.
Well, the poster horse to think back to is Catch a Glimpse during her 3-year-old season,
right,
when everyone was convinced, she's a complete bet against in the Belmont Oaks and the intermediate distance before that. And it to me, it was the exact opposite, that she became more and more of a reliable play in a paceless race going longer, where she was going to be able to set her own fractions up front. And when horses get relaxed and can breathe on their own and get into that rhythm, forget it. And then they get shaken up off the turn and they spurt away, and everybody else is pumping to catch up. It's too late. And it's one of the fun parts of particularly of turf racing, is looking for those kinds of opportunities. And I can tell you, as somebody that rode Luis Saez to 2 wins with Williams Lucky Gray, our mare, going back a couple of years, Luis Saez is terrific at that kind of a ride. And then, basically gutting a field at the top of the stretch or off the turn, and suddenly spurting away and making everybody else get desperate. It's one of the best parts about the turf racing. A very interesting group of serious turf routers in the Pan American. We got a couple of minutes and before we wrap up, and I wouldn't mind anybody, both of you, touching on the Gulfstream Park Mile, the Hardacre Mile, where we're going to see the Derby winner, Always Dreaming, return. And a 6-horse field where, gosh, it feels like any of the 6 could win. And Always Dreaming, of course, will take a lot of money. Irish War Cry is second off the layoff. Mr. Jordan looking to rebound from that dreadful performance in the Gulfstream Sprint. Tommy Macho and the venerable Paige McKenney. Any thoughts on this, Laffit?
Yeah, you can't toss anybody. You can't toss anybody in one of these smaller fields and some of the bigger fields that look so much more complicated. You can't. There isn't anybody in this field that wins that surprises me. Now, I'm a little bit, my fandom might get in the way of my looking at this race without the rose-colored glasses. I've been such an Always Dreaming fan. The fact that he hasn't won since the Kentucky Derby, but maybe now, and he's fresher and maybe more mature, and as a 4-year-old, and the fact that he's done such good work here at Gulfstream, and remember the allowance from last year in the Florida Derby, when I am expecting Always Dreaming to get back on track and to make his 4-year-old debut a smashing one in this mile at Gulfstream.
I can only add that, just looking at the true odds, which I put up here, that Tommy Macho really, according to all the analytics, stands out. His true odds without the adjustment for the situation is 2-1 over 4-1, which is, 33-20. The adjusted true odds are 36% to 21. He looks like he sets up here perfectly with Mr. Jordan, Always Dreaming, Irish War Cry, Conquest, Big E, sitting back here and going by. He's got the top late pace figure in the field next to Paige McKinney, who maybe early according to this, up close, but can't withstand the late charge. So just to point out that, of course, he is the 7-2 right now, the third choice. If that was to hold up, I think that'd be phenomenal. I tend to agree with Laffit. It's going to be an interesting race, but we've been disappointed by Irish Workout. We've been disappointed by Always Dreaming. It's going to be really interesting. But according to the projection here, in terms of the analytics, Tommy Macho looks like a standout.
And another point is just because of the name recognition and the suckers like myself that get caught up with the fact that you have the Derby winner and the Belmont Stakes runner-up, where you look at an Always Dreaming, you look at an Irish War Cry, and you're going to be slanted in their direction. All that's going to do is inflate the price on some of the other horses that might make a little bit more sense when you take a closer look, as you just pointed out with the analytics and the true odds.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But something I like to explain to people sometimes is that the true odds actually does take into account the morning line. It doesn't change it much, but it means it's not necessarily for value, but it actually affects it. And then, here you have Tommy Macho, who just won the Hooper as he pleased from just off the pace, his first race back since September. And certainly, it's Pletcher, it's Saez, who, he win 6 or 10 today? Last time I looked, he won 6. And, it's interesting when you compare that to Irish War Cry, who just ran second around the track. And, of course, he got beat by a nice horse, but still, he was 9-5. Now he's going to be 9-5, 8-5. Always Dreaming, of course, coming back since August, even though this is one-turn mile, so it's not as tough as coming back from 2 turns. But it is interesting that based on that factor, he went from 2-1 on the true odds without the adjustment for the situation. Time Macho's fair odds are 9-5, 8-5, I think it was, on the adjusted true odds based on that last effort.
Final Saez thought passed up the mount on Gunnavera in a $10 million horse race to stay home and ride Strike Power in the Florida Derby. I don't like Strike Power, but again, just a thought.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we'll pull things together and remind you that we'll get together again in a couple of weeks for the Arkansas Derby and the Lexington discussions. I'll be coming to you from Hot Springs. Again, the quarterly promotion, SRLQ 99S. SRLQ 99S, good through the end of April, basically a quarterly unlimited, more or less a $1 and change a day. New or previous subscribers that have let their subscription lax want to make sure that you take part in the forum. Ellis, show them again where the graphic is, where the icon is.
Absolutely. The forum is right here. Stats Race Subscriber Forum. There's a post announcements. We post announcements. We post some angles. You can share angles with other users. It's a lot of fun.
Get a hold of anybody that anytime you need any help, questions, reach out to any of us on Twitter or via email. You should be following Stats Racelands. You should be following Uber Capper. You should be following Laffit Pincay TV and Steve _Byk. All of us, all happy to help you. Craig Walker, the entire development team at Stats Racelands. Want to hear your feedback and improve the product so that you can cash more tickets at the races. It's going to be a wonderful Saturday. XBTV with 14 hours of coverage starting in Dubai. So take part of that. Utilize XBTV's terrific video library of workouts. So much going on. So many tools at your disposal. The biggest and best being Stats Racelands. Laffit, I will see you at Clocker's Corner. Set the alarm. Come on out. Be a part at the races at the great race place.
I will absolutely see you there, Steve. It's always a pleasure, Ellis. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Have a great Saturday. And just again, we're just an awesome, awesome day of Florida racing from sunrise to sunset.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Talk to you in a couple of weeks, everybody.